So today I want you to remember this specific quote. The concept of compound interest is very important. It's very important for things to be saved, for things to be like built up over time, things like that, right? So you've heard me say the most powerful thing in the universe is compound interest, and I'll tell you why that is. So you've seen this. A is equal to P 1 plus I raised to the n. Now, all we do is we put our money in for this one, and it grows, right? And it just grows. And we took a look at that, and we saw that our graph kind of grew like this constantly. It's an exponential, so it grows exponentially. It grows immeasurably over time. Now, what would happen if, instead of putting money in and just leaving it, what would actually happen to that money if I actually put extra money in? So imagine if I put my money in. That's my first bit of money that I put in, right? And, the next month, let's call this February. All right. The next month in February, I go and put some more money in. And guess what? It's growing at that same rate, isn't it? But all of that money is growing in my bank account. Okay. And I do this again in, say, instead of February, now I do it in March again. And I go put some more money in, exactly the same as I did before. Now imagine what would happen if all of those lines were put together. If all of those lines are put together over time, you end up with an even faster growing exponential, because you've got all these other little bits and pieces of money that are being added together that grow together as this mammoth amount of things. And if you do this over time, all of those extra bits of money that you put in keep adding to your growing pile of money. You can look at money as your little peons that go out and your little peons that go and make you money. So if you put it in there, if you put more of your little peons in there, you're going to make more and more money as time goes on. And now on to today's lesson. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this thing called mutual funds. Now, a mutual fund is a type of investment where a bunch of people who don't really care to learn about the stock market, so someone like me who wants to eventually retire, or someone like you who wants to eventually own a car or a house or any such things, right? What you're going to do is you're going to pool your money together with a whole bunch of other people, and you're going to buy three things, minimum three things. You're going to buy a mutual fund, and those mutual funds will always have access to, will have stocks, bonds, and other assets. It might be houses, it might be loans that are lent out to the bank, but all of these things are used to go and make some money, okay? And these funds are managed by investment companies, right? And these investment companies charge a single fee that everybody pays, okay? And that fee is usually given to you either yearly or once every quarter, okay, or once every 6 months. And you actually have to pay, and you actually get money deducted from your mutual fund in order to pay for that. So, for example, let's go over these things here. A mutual fund has an average annual interest rate or return of, when you hear the term return, think of that as an interest, right? Okay. Think of that as interest on your money. Okay. When you hear the term return, I want you to think of this as interest. Interest on your money. Interest on your money. And I wrote that really badly. Okay. So you think of that thing as interest on your money. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is you're going to take this, you're going to get 12.5% every year, right? But your mutual fund asks you to pay them this much every year just to manage your money, to make you money over that year. Okay? So, for example, let's go and do our APRI. Let's just go and figure this out. So, here we know that this is compounding throughout the year because this is an interest rate, right? We are growing our money throughout the year. But what we're going to do is we're going to keep this in there for exactly 3 years. So we're going to use this equation. A equals P1 plus I raised to the n. And in order to use that, we have to know what our A is. We don't know what that is, but we do know what our original principal is. And our original principal for this problem is $1,000 because that's what we are going to invest for 3 years, right? And we need to see how much money we're going to have at the end of those 3 years, okay? And remember that we're going to actually have an interest of 1.75% taken off of that 12.5% that we had originally. So our original amount is $1,000, okay? Our I value is going to be, 12.5, okay? And then we're going to subtract 1.75%, and we're going to get a total of 10.75%. Okay? And now our 10.75% is what interest that we make every year. That is what we're going to make every year, and we're going to punch that into our calculations here. So in this case, you're going to make $1,358.41. But we also have to calculate the interest. So let's calculate that real quick. And in this case, we have an interest of $358.41. That's all we're going to do. So now, when we ask for the interest earned, that's what this is. This part here is the amount that we earn over the time, okay? Now remember, in order to do that, we have to subtract the fees, and that's what we had to do here. We had to take 12.5 minus 1.75 to give us 10.75% and use that for our I value. Now, one of the things that I have to warn you is this future value of the investment is basically an approximation because you know what? The market can crash. Things can happen throughout the year, and sometimes you can lose money, and sometimes, in some rare instances, your investments can even become worthless. Okay. Now, investing in mutual funds carry an element of risks. Mutual funds provide an opportunity to earn more interest compared to what you would make on a regular bank. Remember, if you're using a regular bank, you get 0.25% or something even less than that. Okay, and in this case, you're making 12.5% over the year. Now, basically what you need to understand is when you have money invested in mutual funds, you make way more money than you would make if you had left it in your regular bank account. Okay. The only issue is that you have to deal with risk. Okay. There's always going to be risks, and sometimes investments decrease in value. Okay. All the way down to zero. Sometimes that happens, but it's very rare. As long as you invest in something that is a mutual fund that is well managed, you won't lose that much money. You'll always gain in the end. Okay, let's move on to example 2. Okay. Suppose you invested $1,000 in a mutual fund that charged a 3% management fee. Okay. Determine the investment value after 1 year if it decreased by 4%. Okay, so if I was looking at a problem like this, right, you have to recognize that you might say that, suppose your mutual fund, right, had $1,000 and it was charged 3%, but then you also lost 4%, right? So you get minus 4% and then minus 3%. Well, that's just minus 7%, isn't it? So if I use my A, P, I, and N, here's what you would know. After 1 year, N is 1. I would be negative 0.07. So you're going to use your APIN thing that you used before, and you've got your P to be $1,000. So imagine it's $1,000 again, and we just plug it in. A is equal to P 1 plus I raised to the N. The only issue is you're going to write A is equal to P 1 plus, instead of plus 1 or plus the number, it's minus 0.07. 0.07 raised to the 1, which gives us A is equal to 1,000 times 0.93 raised to the 1, which gives us $930. A equals $930. And that's how much we would have at the end of a year if we decreased it by 7%. So remember, sometimes your overall interest becomes negative, and instead of adding to 1, we're going to subtract from 1. And we call that depreciation or decreasing. Now, the next year, okay, so we don't know what A is, but we do know that the next year we're going to start with $930, right? Okay, and for the next year, we got a return of 1%. So let's put 1%, all right? We still have to pay 3% management fee, right? Which gives us minus which gives us minus 2%, right? So our I for APIN is going to be negative 0.02. And our N is equal to 1 again. So now we just plug that into our equation. A is equal to P1 plus I raised to the N. And when we substitute, we're going to get 930 times 1 minus 0.02 raised to the 1, which is A is equal to 930 times 0.98, which means we're going to get $911.40 as our final answer. So that's how much we'd have at the end of that last year. Okay, so imagine that we take a look at this problem again, part C, but this time we have a 10-year period, right? Okay, we're going to still use our APIN as before, right? The P is still 1,000, but this time it averaged 6.08%, right? So if I have 6.08% and I'm going to subtract 3% for the management fee, you're going to get 3.08% growth over that time. So our I is going to be 0.0308, and our N is going to be, instead of 1, it's going to be 10. So now we just substitute. So you got A is equal to P 1 plus I and we end up with this final calculation for our final amount. All right, now let's go and talk about a thing called the Guaranteed Investment Certificate. We call that a GIC. And that is way more stable than a mutual fund. Sometimes your mutual funds get really high, returns, and sometimes they don't. But guaranteed investments, wait till you see what that does. So sometimes you'll hear about the term called a GIC, right? A GIC is just a guaranteed investment certificate, right? Think of this as if I put $500 in to something, right? And the bank says I have a GIC that gives you a return of 3% at the end of 6 months or a year, you will get that 6% or 3% or whatever it is they guarantee you. They guarantee that you get your money, you will not lose money, and you'll always get an increase on that money every year. Now, the crazy part about it is that when you give money for a GIC, that certificate says it's kind of like an I owe you account, like an I owe you receipt. It'll say they'll take the money, and then any interest that you make over that time, let's say it's supposed to be in there for 6 months, you will get that interest. But if you pull your money out before the time is allowed, before they allow you to take it out, you lose all the interest that you had gained. Does that make sense? It's kind of like they're trying to make it so that they make money, right? So that fixed rate is guaranteed for you, right? But you have to loan that money out to the bank so that they can take that money and use it for other loans to other people. That's what they're doing, essentially. So, for example, let's take a look at this problem. Ferd bought a $3,000 2-year GIC at a variable rate. The first year, the rate was 2.25% interest. And the second year was 2.73% annual interest. All the interest is calculated monthly. Calculate the total value of the GIC. So here's how we're going to do this. So we're going to break this into 2 years of calculations. For the first year, we're going to start with the principal being $3,000. Okay. Then we're going to take that 2.25%, and since we're compounding monthly, we're going to go 0.025, and we're going to divide that by 12. You're going to get 0.001875 as our decimal. And N is 12 years. 1 times 12, which is 1 year times 12, which is 12 months. So we have this for our calculation. And for the first year, you end up with $3,068.20. Now, for the second year, we know that the interest rate has turned into 2.73%. So we're going to do that and punch that into our calculator. But this time, this A value that we started with is going to be as our P value in our new calculation. So we're going to get 3068.20, and then we're going to take 0.0273, and we're going to divide that by 12. And you're going to get 0.002275 as our decimal. And then we're going to take that 1 year and we're going to multiply it by our 12 to get 12 again. And now we end up with this calculation for our second year. So we end up with this calculation, which gives us the final answer. So therefore, after 2 years with all these varying rates, we end up with $3,153.02 as our final worth of the GIC. Okay, so now let's talk about registered retirement investment savings plans. Okay, so now let's talk about this problem here. What I want you to do is I want you to make sure that your TVM calculator is totally cleared out. You're going to have something that looks like this. Just hit the reset button. Now that we have that set up, let's go over what a registered retirement savings plan is, okay? You got to understand that in order to retire, you have to have some sort of income, right? And it's not the government that pays your income at that point. It's you. You over the life of your working life will either have a pension, or you'll have an RRSP, or you'll have both, okay? Or a TFSA. Now, basically I want you to think this as just income for retirement. Okay, so that is what an RRSP is. You are funding your own retirement in the future. All right, think of this as money that is going to be deposited into your RRSP, is deducted for your income. Okay, and because you're actually saving for your retirement, you end up paying less income tax that year. Okay. So during those years of you working and putting money into your RRSP, the income and interest in your RRSP increases with absolutely no issue, okay? You have no problems. You don't pay any taxes on it until the day that you retire, right? Now, when you retire, the government considers that money income when you go and take money out. So eventually they just need to see how much money that you take out every year, and the bank keeps track of that. And then you end up paying taxes on that money at the end of the year after you've retired. Okay. And you can keep doing that for a long time. Now, the best part about the retirement savings plan is you can put a specific amount of money in towards your retirement savings plan every single month, or every single week, or every single day, or every single year. And that money is totaled up, and then you don't get taxed on it during your working life. Okay? That is the best part about it, right? Now, the reason why these things are beneficial to you right now is that if you're making a lot of money and you want to be able to save money and not have to pay interest on extra money that you've made for the year, go and put money into your RRSP. That will tend to cancel off a lot of those penalties that you would be making, that you would have to pay out to the government for that year. That is why it's beneficial. Okay? Now, let's talk about this. Many people set up RRSPs as a series of small, regular payments, okay, or investments, okay? Now, here is the cool part, okay? Suppose you decide to invest $300 per month from the age of 16 until 65, okay? You're going to assume that your average will always be 7%, okay? Over the entirety of your savings until 65, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna compound this monthly. So we're gonna have 7% per year in our TVM calculator. So remember, I gave you the TVM calculator before. Go onto the website. You're going to see the link for the TVM calculator. You can use the TVM calculator to do this problem. So we don't really care about the present value. What we do care about is the payments. Now, remember I told you the payments are $300. Now, let me ask you, you need to think about this. That money that I put away, do I have use of it now? No, you don't, right? It's locked away. You can't use it until you retire. So that's essentially depositing it into the bank. And so guess what? That is what we call a negative income. We actually take it out of it. We take it away for ourselves for now. So under the payment portion, remember it says that we have $300 per month put away. So instead of our payments being positive 300, that would be saying, hey, I'm putting $300 away and I'm going to get that money comes back to me later on. Okay. So this time in order to do that, we're actually going to have to put negative 300, okay, because we're not actually going to have it. But for the future value, when we get it back, it's going to be deposited into our account and we have access to it. And that is what we're going to do. So now we're going to make sure that we put our payments to be negative 300, okay? Now that we have it negative 300, we also have to take a look at the interest rate. So the annual interest rate is 7%. So we're going to put 7 in our TVM calculator. And now that we have that, we have to figure out how many years there are between the age of 16 and 65. Okay, so 65 minus 16 is equal to 49, right? Yes. Now, in order to get the periods, we're going to have to say n is equal to 49 times 12, which is equal to 588. So you're going to punch in for your periods. You're going to put 588 months for your monthly compounding. So the compounding is monthly, it's periods. And then what you have to do is you have to hit this button here, your future value, to find your answer. And in this case, you're going to find the future value of all the money that you have saved is going to equal $1,520,767.12. Now, if I need to find out how much interest was earned, here's what you need to do. You need to find out how much the total deposits were. The total deposits are equal to $300, and we're going to times it by 588 months, which gives us $176,400. Okay, and then here is our return, the interest. The interest is equal to the future value, which is this number here, the ending value, which is 1,520,767 minus, 0.12 minus 176,400. And that tells me I made $1,344,367.12 over, holy geez, 49 years. So, do you remember how I told you that compounding interest was an amazing thing? Look at how much money we put in. We only put $176,000 and we got almost 10 times the amount of money in interest over time. Okay? All right. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to do some practice with the TVM calculator. So for 12A, use the TVM calculator for question number 7. I just want you to do these questions here. They're pretty easy. They're very similar to what we did with our compounding interest problems. Anytime that we're dealing with registered retirement savings plans, I want you to use the TVM calculator to find the future value, the total deposits, and the interest like we did here. Okay? Have a good day, guys. Oh, I should let you know that this number here ends up in this little box here when you click the future value button. Okay? All right. Have a good day. Bye.